We are live. Thank you so much for joining me on She's All Over the Place. Because of you, we're in the top 2% out of all known podcasts. Thank you so much for subscribing. I'm hearing all the feedback. I'm so happy you're enjoying this powerful season thus far. Today, I have a special guest on, Jim Poole. He's the CEO of NuCalm, and I have been utilizing NuCalm for the last few weeks, and I'm so excited. Jim just got back from Egypt. Jim, how are you?
I'm doing awesome. Thank you for
Yay.
having me.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Let's just dive right in. So, what were you doing in Egypt?
I was doing what I do, which is bringing to the world education on how your brain works, how it's wired, why we do what we do, and then ways to manage your stress, improve your focus, improve your sleep, and specifically the neuroscience technology that we've been working with and bringing to the world for the past 34 years. So it was a 5-city lecture tour. I was in country for 13 days, and it was fantastic. So for any of you who have aspirations to go to Egypt, whether it's because of the 4,500 years of history, the engineering, the science, the math, the energy, the frequency, the pharaohs, my goodness, you're going to love it. It was incredible. Incredible.
It's so. Was that your first time in Egypt?
It was my first time to Egypt. Not my first time to Africa, but the first time to Egypt, yes.
So it's wonderful how you can couple your lifestyle with your personal family, your enjoyment of your well-being, and that with your profession of the world, and paying it forward for humanity, society, while healing and educating people. I just want to honor you. It's what I strived for since I was a little girl, and I know a lot of people want to bridge that connection or have that gap of how do you do that. So, what are some steps that you've implemented along your journey to be a CEO of a well-renowned, amazing company with neuroscience, and then coupling that with your lifestyle? What are some steps you took, or some intentions and visions that you had to be able to align those together?
Well, in business, Katie, I've always felt the need to be face to face. I know about 20 years ago, with the advent of video conferencing, people were like, yeah, we're not going to have to travel anymore. I never believed that. I think the ability to observe, listen, pay attention, the energy, the vibration, it's really important. So travel has always been a piece of my existence. I've been running companies and traveling as a business person for 31 years. So that's just par for the course. This has been an interesting journey because I've never been a part of a pioneering venture. But when you're bringing to the world neuroscience and solutions that have never existed prior on Earth, there's a lot of education that we have to do. So I have had the luxury, like you said, to be all over the world. I've lectured in India and China, Russia, all over Africa, all over Europe, all over America. I travel about 300 days a year, so that's a little extreme, and people don't really understand that until you have a bird's eye view of my life. Like, I just got home from Egypt, then I was in Florida, and next stop is London, Wales, and Liverpool. Come back, then I'm in Hawaii, then I'm in Costa Rica. So,
oh my gosh, we'll have to talk offline about Costa Rica, because I'm going there as well. Well, you're perfect for She's All Over the Place, because you were all over the place. And I would like to also, I'm a people person too. Like, I like one-on-one, the energy, the intuitive hit, like you feel the energy. And when we met at the Chopra Foundation at Kenneth Cole, and there were about 20 different people speaking. And when you were speaking with the 5 people that you did, the cadence in your voice and how you land and what you say, like everyone, there was just an energy in the room. And like through from the beginning, middle, and end, everyone was complimenting and saying something about your presence and the way you speak and how you land and your intention and your word. And what you were sharing with me is like, there's all these new AI technologies, and there's all these like young entrepreneurs, and it's great. And they're all like fluff and buff and saying this and this. But you have been doing this for, over 3 decades. So it's like you have the back science. It's not just some fluff and buff. And like it comes through your energy, and I feel like, okay, we can get that viscerally and here, but being in person and really communicating that ripple effect in the live flesh of that energy, I feel you 100%, and I understand exactly what you're saying.
a lot of that, Katie, comes from the authenticity of being there. None of this is new. There's no motivation and side hustle. This is us as an organization literally trying to figure out how do we solve very complex problems that have plagued humanity since humanity began. And a lot of it has to do for us around stress and stress management. And when you are in a position like we are to liberate a human being from stress, a lot of times, Katie, people don't even know the burden of stress they've been carrying. They normalize it. It's a boulder. And so when you liberate them from that, there's a overwhelming sense of relief, number one. Number two, they can't believe how good they feel. Number three, they don't want to go back to how they used to live. And so a lot of what I'm able to share with people is really this commonality of it doesn't matter if we're working with celebrities, pilots, professional athletes, cancer patients, neurodegenerative diseases, multiple sclerosis, kids, students, teachers, pilots, passengers. We're all the same.
Yeah.
We tend to believe that we're unique, that our problems are unique, that we're isolated. Nobody understands what we're going through. That's a fallacy. It's bordering on insanity. Of course, people understand what you're going through because we're all human. We're all in this matrix, and the connective tissue is the fact that our brain, my brain, your brain, have an operating system. And a lot of the circuitry is identical. You have an amygdala. I have an amygdala. You have a prefrontal cortex. I have a prefrontal cortex. You have a stress response. I have a stress response. So I think part of the resonance and part of what I have to share with people has an impact because they've never heard it before. They don't know how their brain works. We're never taught in school, hey, Katie and Jim, did you know that your brain works like this? And did you know this is why a lot of times we do the things we do, even though we don't understand why we do the things we do? So a lot of what I do is educating people on what their operating system is. This is what you're born with. It'd be nice if you knew how to operate it. And then in addition, it's talking about things like stress and sleep and brainwave function and oscillations and frequencies. And you are right. In capitalism, when there's a need, that need is filled with products and services and lies, false pretenses, failed expectations. Part of it is greed and part of it is a desire to help. But where we stand and how we operate, we're dealing with the human brain. It's taken us 34 years every day toiling in research and science, discovery, clinical proof, validation, patents, FDA, surgical procedures, you name it, we've done it. And the reality is, you can't take shortcuts when you're trying to manage the human brain. And in today's society, where attention seems to be the currency that we're all after, oh boy, well, they'll come and they'll say, hey, we can do this for you. We can do that for you. We can do this for you. And I just sit on the sideline and say, no, you can't do that. It just doesn't work that way. So it's been a fascinating journey. I feel like I'm one of the luckiest humans on earth. I get to work, or did get to work, side by side with one of the brightest neuroscientists, quantum physicists to ever walk this earth. And this gentleman, Dr. Blake Holloway, he spent 19 years of his life trying to figure out, how can I effectively manage the human brain without drugs and allow a human to regain control of the chaos that's between our ears? That's what we do.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that. And what his body of work and what he did was the evolution in the times of technology then, and based off the collective information that he studied, that he knew, and then passing, and then he could share that with you and the peers to pass the baton and go forward. But now with the hearts and the likes and the sharing and the reposting and the neural circuitries of like you said, the attention, and it's like, or I can do this or I can do that for you, and it's like everyone's like, yes, exciting, and it's like the dopamine hit of like, yes, in the first second, second, third second. But then there's the through line of 2 to 99, and then the solution of the 100. And most people are just there like sowing the seeds, and then you go back 3 months later to like rake all the duds, and then you see what you've been nourishing, and then you see what's been growing, right? You're like sowing different seeds, and a lot of those seeds are dud seeds, and maybe people have the good intentions, but do they have the back science? Do they have the backed awareness? Do they have the integral within knowledge to know thyself, to be able to support what they're saying from internally to externally, to make it sure it's sustainable? Because a lot of times, we're operating from the egoic standpoint, and people are trying to prove. And I can only say for my own self, from my own little girl dreams or my own traumas of like having this golden shield and wanting to go out into this big bad beautiful world to like do all these things, I learned a few years ago, like who am I can prove myself, but I don't have to prove myself. Like, and then it's like, who am I proving to? Oh, I'm proving to society, I'm proving to myself, I'm proving to my mom and dad, I'm proving to my culture. Like, I can be in this quote unquote, what I heard when I was a kid, like man's world, but still like be a businesswoman or an entrepreneur or an artist. And you have to pick either or, a trophy wife, or like being a wife and then not having a career. And I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have a career and then have children later on in life, and like having these master plans. So we all have these master plans and strategies that we're figuring out, but how are they sustainable? And I can have you comment on that if you will, but that also I would like to pin something, because that took me to Tony Robbins, where I want to pivot to next, and on his theory of the 3 S's, right?
So Tony and I have been friends for 9 years. 9 years today, May 7th, 2015.
What?
Yeah.
I love him. Oh my God, he's amazing. Lucky you. Oh, that's so amazing.
So we have a technology called NuCalm. What we do is we allow you as a human to regulate your mental state by regulating your brainwave. So before we get into Tony, let me just share with your audience how your brain works, just in a high level.
Thanks.
So we have waveforms and frequencies, and we hear about frequencies a lot, and we can see a waveform. Well, there are 5 categories of frequencies and waves inside your brain. There is delta, there's theta, and there's alpha. Those are all in the sleep architecture. So those are a slow waveform, a slower frequency that are associated with sleep. Yeah. When your brain is oscillating at 1 hertz, it's delta. You're in deep sleep. It's not up for debate. We know what you're doing. You're sleeping. When your brain is in theta, your body is healing and restoring. That's the restorative aspect and the repair piece of sleep. When you're in alpha, it's the first stage of sleep, and it's relaxed creativity and just kind of slipping into that lucid state. Above that is called beta, B-E-T-A. Now, beta is the broadest range and the largest frequency range. In beta, you have 13 to 15 hertz is kind of, you're awake, you're alert, but you're not really excited. 15 to 20 hertz is the learning zone. This is fascinating. There is a learning zone. When your brain is operating in that frequency, you're learning. What are you learning? You're learning new information, you're encoding new information, you're analyzing new information, you're problem solving, and you're consolidating to memory. What's fascinating about that, Katie, is that most of us don't know there's a learning zone. 20 to 25 hertz is stress, fear, anxiety, agitation, impatience, and worry. 25 to 30 is more fear, stress, anxiety, agitation, impatience, and worry. So it's a fast frequency, and it makes sense. You can think, hey, my brain is going fast, so I'm distracted, I'm agitated, I'm sweaty, I'm just not operating that well.
Worried?
Well, I'm worried. 30 to 38 hertz is pure fight or flight, and you're in survival mode. So something is happening to you, and you're in danger, and you're not even thinking clearly. So that's beta. And then above the highest level of stress and fear is this sweet spot called gamma. This is one of those fascinating nuances of your brain. That's like, wow, above the highest level of stress is this gamma state. And gamma is a tight range, and it's fast. It's 39 to 41 hertz. In gamma, commensurate with being a meditating monk, is also high intensity, mistake-free focus. High intensity, mistake-free focus, meaning, like when you're into something, you're playing sports, or you're driving fast, or whatever you're doing, And if you think, you stink. That's an adage in golf. If you think, you stink. Because when you think and you're performing, you're thinking about all the things you're going to mess up. You're thinking about the insecurity. You're thinking about expectations. You're thinking about the audience. No. But when you are simply focused and accessing your mental memory, your physical memory, your muscle memory, and your training, you win. Call that being in the zone. So these 5 categories is how we operate as a human being. The goal is, when I want to be focused, can I bring my brainwave function to 15 to 20 hertz? When I want to be relaxed, can I bring my brainwave function to 12 hertz? When I want to restore and repair, can I bring my brainwave function to 4 hertz? When I want to sleep, can I go to deep sleep? Dr. Holloway figured out a way to use your ears as a carrier to present your brain with a signal. So we have a software bed. This software is 1 to 2 gigabytes of information that we are presenting to your brain in a pattern. Then we layer music on top of that pattern. So you, as a listener, hear beautiful music. Music is a distraction and a carrier to present the information we want your brain to learn. And that information is either we dial you down, we slow you down, or we dial you up. So 2015, May 7th, I become friends with Tony Robbins. He falls in love with NuCalm. He begins using what's called NuCalm Rescue. He has a very, very high energy. He has a very high demand of himself, and his sleep patterns aren't healthy. So he becomes a daily habitual user of Rescue, which, according to our research at Harvard Medical School, 20 minutes of NuCalm is equivalent to 2 hours of restorative sleep. Now, this is important. 20 minutes of NuCalm when you do Rescue this afternoon is equivalent to 2 hours of restorative sleep, which means when you get up, you feel really good. You feel mentally clear. The things that were bothering you don't bother you. So in 2016, a Premier League soccer club calls me up and say, hey, Mr. Poole, we love NuCalm. Our players are recovering faster. They're healing faster. The nagging injuries aren't so much. This is amazing. Travel, everything's great. But can you make us something that'll get them excited to get on the pitch? Well, Katie, I have Dr. Holloway in my corner. Now, Dr. Holloway is the brightest human being I've ever met. We have 52 medical advisors on our advisory board, NASA mathematicians, Harvard Medical School statistical biophysicists, the former medical director of the NFL. It's a who's who, our board. Collectively, for 15 years, they haven't figured out what Blake invented. So I have this gentleman in my corner. So my confidence level is really high when someone asks me, can we do something? My answer is always the same. Of course we can. Now, I don't know how, and I don't know when, Blake, for all of his incredible wisdom and his heart, had Asperger's. So he wasn't executive functioning in an operational timeline. He wasn't prone to deadlines, linear pathways. I just knew that whatever I tasked him with, he would figure out. I just never knew when or how. So 2015, 16, we create something that we call Ignite. Now, Ignite is designed in a 14 to 15 minute pattern to amplify your brainwave to 41 hertz, that gamma sweet spot, high intensity, mistake-free focus. So we developed this. Now, at this point, I'm friends with Tony, and I call him up. I say, Tony, we just developed a different type of physics platform that's not like Rescue. You don't relax. And we're using it with the elite special forces military and professional athletes. Are you interested? Yeah, sure. Send it to me. So I sent it to him. The track is 14 minutes and 37 seconds. I get a call in about 16 minutes. Jim, what the hell is this? I said, it's Ignite, brother. He's like, I've never heard anything like it. I said, of course you haven't. We have the only patented technology in the world. There's no other technology in the world that does what we do. He said, what can we do with this? I said, we can do anything we want. So the next year, Tony and I flew to Toronto, Canada, and in the Ritz-Carlton, we trained the Washington Capitals hockey team that went on to win the Stanley Cup for the first time in their history. Wow. The next year, we had so much fun, and he has a good relationship with the Golden State Warriors. We met with the Golden State Warriors, the entire team, in an Oakland Marriott for 5 hours and trained them. And they went on to win the NBA World Championship. So these two files called Certainty and Gratitude are in the NuCalm mobile app in the product called Ignite. So last year, I'm at Tony's home, and I miss working with him. It's fun to do collaborations like that. And in 2021 and 2022, we collaborated with Jim Quick, and we created 9 specific tracks with Jim Quick, who's an amazing, gifted human being. And I
Yeah.
said, hey Tony, we collaborate with Jim. Let's do a collaboration with you that's not so intense, that's more around priming and really gaining control of your mind and your intention in the morning or when you're struggling during the day. He said, okay, let's do it. So it took us 13 months to create this. Now, 13 months, you'd think we're lazy, we're incapable. None of that is true. When we're building a track, our engineers, our musicians, and our producers have to develop music that is consistent with a mathematical matrix, second by second. It's like neurosurgery. So it took us 13 months to create 2 priming tracks. One priming track where Tony is exhibiting breath work, and another priming track where he's not exhibiting breath work. So on Monday after Easter, I was at his house again. I said, hey, we've done it. We're ready. He listens to it. Amazing. And last Thursday, we launched 2 new Tony Robbins priming tracks that amplify your brain to a state of certainty, to a state of clarity, and allow your brain to be permeable to the words that are going to enter your brain. See, a lot of times when we're listening to something, our mind, which just has an amazing capability of distraction, just goes off on tangents. It gets bored with music. It gets bored with repetitive melodies. So if we can use physics to keep your brain in a certain range, like high intensity, mistake-free focus, and then we add in the expertise of Tony Robbins priming, guess what? We don't have words going in one ear and out the other. We have behavior changes right down to your soul because they're coming in and they're integrating. So how freaking cool is that? We get to literally create arguably some of the most powerful mind control, and mind control not in a bad thing. Our minds are typically controlled by our reptile part of our brain that's led by the amygdala. Well, instead of allowing the reptile part of our brain that isn't conscious of dictating our behavior, we're going to allow this physics platform with Tony to say, hey, you know what? I want to be intentional today. I want to be positive. I want to focus on gratitude and my goals. And I want to do things that are good for me, not things that serve worry, anxiety, and fear. So that's what we've done with Tony. I love collaborating. People don't understand the complexity of what we do. But if I said, hey, we've been doing this for 34 years and it's taken us $45 million to create the only patented, clinically proven former FDA medical device that ever exists in the world, you might have a little idea of how complex it is. But in reality, the specificity of your word choices, of your inflection and how you deliver words is imperative when you've opened up the mind to this permeable state. So who we choose to collaborate with so far has only been Tony Robbins and Jim Quick in 34 years. We'd love to collaborate with more people. They just have to have an expertise in what words to use, when, and how to say them. So that's our collaboration with Tony. Tony's amazing.
Yeah.
I've been friends with him for 9 years. I find him to be exceptionally gifted, a really incredible way of coalescing complex information into a manner that's understandable, and a heart bigger than his size. And he's a huge guy, but his heart is enormous. He'll take care. He just wants to take care of people. So that's where our friendship is integrated.
I love it. Thank you so much for sharing. I feel so blessed and so lucky just to hear your wise words and have you with me in our friendship and just like be a vessel to be able to communicate that with the person tuning in and sharing this information. I love how you said like being intentional and really aligning those things are so important because there's so many things happening at such a fast pace. But how do we create the space to take time for ourselves, because we do it for others, but to take an inch for ourselves to take 2 inches, 3 inches, and build up practice to take some more space for ourselves, and then actually implement what you're talking about, because there's so much fluff and buff and all these, self-help books and like $1 trillion industry for yoga and wellness and healthcare. But it's like, because people think they're on the hamster wheel doing it, or they're hearing this and this from other people. But you have to really go to the 1%, to the people exactly like you, Tony Robbins, Jim Quick. He's amazing. I've seen him at the UN a few times at some events at the United Nations. So it's always great to see Jim. And that's so cool that you guys are friends. So, where can people find NuCalm, the app, and ways that they can participate in NuCalm today?
So sometimes good people win. Sometimes good wins. And this is one of those times. From 2009 to 2015, we were an exclusive $6,000 FDA Class 3 medical device. It was complicated. It was expensive. No one seemed to mind the complication because the outcome was so powerful. We worked in medicine. That was our goal. Our goal was to allow a surgical environment, the patient not to be medicated on general anesthesia. So you can operate on somebody listening to our physics wearing an eye mask. Think about that.
Yeah.
The rescue that you do this afternoon. We've done over 2 million surgical procedures with somebody in a cold operatory of a hospital being cut open. They're not drugged. They're listening to our physics, and we're putting them into a state of relaxation without drugs. So that's where we came from. In 2016, we're serving the United States elite military, the Department of Defense, and the people that sacrifice to protect our freedom. Amazing work to do. We're serving the veteran community that have already sacrificed and are struggling. We're serving cancer patients, medical doctors, pilots, celebrities, and professional athletes. We have a great business. It's not good enough. When you witness the power of what we can do to help people simply by stopping their stress without drugs and giving them restorative sleep, you got to bring this to the world. So in 2016, I challenged Blake. I said, Blake, we've got to democratize this. This is not acceptable. We can't just serve the few. It's not. We're not going to accept this. It took us years. And in November of 2021, we took 34 years of complex, patented, clinically proven neuroscience, incredible stuff, and we put it into a mobile app. Why? Because we need to bring this to the masses. Now, the way that life works is mobile apps are less than 10 years old. What?
Layer 2. Yeah, layer 2 of the internet. Yeah.
Yeah, think about that. Wow, look how much has changed. Look how everything is kind of focused on that. So we chose to follow that path of least resistance and make it easy because, like you said, humans are tremendously gifted at giving to others and tremendously gifted at making up excuses why they shouldn't take care of themselves. So if it is not simple, a human won't make it a habit. So we made this a mobile app. So in 2021, we made a mobile app. We lowered the price at that point from $4,695 to $49.99 a month, a 99% price decrease. You want to democratize it, make it affordable, and make it accessible. Then we took 2 products. We had Rescue and Power Nap, both for recovery. And we turned 2 products into 5 products that same day. On one day, this 32-year company at that point went from 2 products to 5, which is amazing to me. Well, it's just the way the universe works. It took us 9 years to develop what's called deep sleep. Deep sleep is designed to put you to sleep and give you the restorative sleep that everybody's lacking. It took us 7 years to create flow state, which is creativity, and 7.83 hertz, which is called the Schumann resonance, which is the Earth's magnetic rotation. And not by coincidence, it's also the resonance of the human body cavity. You see, we're all related by math. We don't know this, but we are. And it took us 6 years to do Ignite. So in one day, Katie, we went from a 2-product company, Rescue and Power Nap, to 5 products. And then the next year, July of 2022, we launched the 6th and final product called Focus. So Earlier, I mentioned 5 categories of brainwave function: delta, theta, alpha in sleep, beta, and gamma. We have one mobile app, NuCalm. On that mobile app, there are 6 products that manage all 5 categories of your brain. So you could, if you wanted, visually, on your kitchen table, put the NuCalm app on the left-hand side. And on the right-hand side, you can put coffee, espresso, Red Bull, Monster Energy, wine, beer, liquor, recreational drugs, pharmaceutical drugs. You can put all these things that humans use to externally change their state. And we've changed all of that. For the first time in human history, we've given you the power to change your mental state on demand with no drugs. It is a natural mechanism for us simply to dial your brainwave up or dial your brainwave down. That's it. That's what we've done.
Thank you. Yeah, go ahead.
Go to NuCalm.com, NuCalm. There are currently 4 subscriptions you could subscribe to. One is called Rescue. It's 50 cents a day, $15 a month. Nobody buys that because it's just one product out of 6. The other product is called Sleep Suite, which is focused on stress management and sleep. It gives you 3 products: Rescue, Power Nap, and Deep Sleep. That's $1 a day, $29.99. Edge gets you everything we've ever created. Currently, there's over 100 hours of master content on the app. A lot of choice. That's $1.67 a day, $50 a month. And then last Thursday, we launched Performance Priming with TR standing for Tony Robbins. And those are the 3 products that he uses daily, which is Rescue, Deep Sleep, and Ignite. Again, $1 a day. And it's fascinating, Katie, to me, for all the expertise we have in science, neuroscience, brain science, we're the best in the world at what we do. But in the last 5 years, I would make the argument we've become social psychologists, not neuroscientists, because our goal is to figure out, how do we make this easy so people can take care of themselves with minimal effort? And the parallel that I use is the microwave. The microwave was invented by a Raytheon physicist in 1946. Did not become a household item until 1986. You see, there's a typical arc of 40-year trajectory of any pioneering technology. That's just the way life is. So when you say to American today, hey, how's a microwave work? I don't know. Well, what's it do? It conveniently heats up my food. That's what we want from NuCalm. You're never going to understand the science. So, hey, how does NuCalm work? I don't know. What's it do? It makes me feel good without drugs.
Yeah.
That's what we're looking to do. So that is the path we're on. If you just went to the App Store and you said, wow, $30 a month or $50 a month for an app, that's a lot. You're right. If it was just an app. We're not an app company. We're a neuroscience company giving you 34 years of patented neuroscience through an app by our choice. We're not an app company. There's no entertainment. This is science and health. This is helping you increase your resilience, lower your inflammation, increase your longevity. On Monday, I will present NuCalm to 20 to 30 people with stage 4 cancer. For more than 10 years, I've worked side by side with Dr. Janet Ranicky, MD, PhD, one of the world's leading psychoneuroimmunologists, an expert in cancer healing. Surrounded by several leading doctors, we will bring NuCalm to every person at the Comprehensive Cancer Wellness Program, and they will stay alive. These folks have been given their certificate to go home and die from their medical oncologist. They all have stage 4 cancer. I will present to them with great confidence, change your life right now. We're going to keep you alive. And I'll say to them, NuCalm doesn't cure cancer. No. Your body can heal you from cancer if we can liberate the fear, the stress, the anxiety. If we can give you restorative sleep and lower and slow down your monkey mind, your body knows how to heal you. It's your stress that's accelerating the disease and killing you. That's incredible. We get to do that. I get that honor and privilege on Monday to work directly with people with stage 4 cancer. So when someone says, hey, that's expensive, I said, well, Consider this. A couple years ago, it was a $6,000 FDA Class C medical device exclusively available to the military, doctors, celebrities, and pilots. Now you can get it for $1 a day. Not really sure where the expenses come from, because I can get a cup of coffee at Starbucks for $5.65, or I can take care of my health, my longevity, my rest, my recovery, my sleep, my focus, and my energy for $1 a day. I feel pretty good about that.
And it adds up. I love it. I have so many things in my head. Let's see if it all comes out clearly. One, came up twice. My friend might be tuning in. Remind me to and connect you with my friend. He owns 5 cancer hospitals on the East Coast, 5 of them. So you need to connect. I need to make sure you connect with him. And what you just said, 5 cancer hospitals, making it a happen. More information. He deals with doctors in Vegas and Arizona. They do these conferences with so many people. So I'm going to connect you with that. A massive ripple effect. Also, just circling back around of the 3 S's with Tony. Like, you shared your story, and we're going to continue to share your story. And it's all about the story. It's story driven, which is important. And then you also mentioned during the conclusion of the Tony conversation, the state. And so that's Tony's strategy. What I just said, there's 3 S's. If you really want to change, it's your story. It's your story first. He said people lead with strategy, but it's your story first. It's your story, then it's your state. And once you're in the state, then you can do a strategy to see it through, the 1 to 100. So
Yes.
love that you mentioned that. Also, another correlation, how you were talking with like the thousands of dollars, and now how it can be so minimal in the technology evolution. Well, Tony, last month shared his story with me, how, and I remember first like getting introduced to Tony Robbins in an acting class with Michael Wilson. And everyone's like, oh, it'll change your life. No one's ever the same. Like, you'll be so successful. But it was $15,000. And it's so scary. It's like to invest that much money on yourself, like, period. Or, people are so scared. They'll give other people money, but they're so scared to invest in themselves. And it's a struggle, and it's another podcast. But when I started investing in myself, that's when I actually saw internally the change externally. But he was in 2005, $15,000 a month. And then he gave the whole story, which I won't say now, and how he pivoted and shift during the pandemic, and how he built what he built and could give it to people for a nominal fee under $500, and to share, be a ripple effect, share with masses of people all around the world. And instead of 15,000, it was under 500. So it's the same story that you had through the power of technology and pivoting with the times, being able to help people at a massive level and not gatekeep. And so that's another story. And then the other thing I had that came up is, people are so attached and addicted to the struggle, and people are so used to generational trauma of jumping through the hoops, and everyone's saying, run, do this, run, do that, go do this, go do that. Oh, you have to do X, Y, and Z, and A, B, C, D, and 1 through a zillion for this to happen. So, they're used to these mathematical equations, because the people are confused. They don't know. They're sharing what they were told and what they're trying to do. But really, so when you get something so simple, or if you give someone something complimentary or free, they don't understand the value. So it's changing the state and the story of what we put value on, right? Not a Ferrari, or not whatever X, Y, and Z people could think about of what we're putting the value on, or, oh, it has to be on a private jet or this for it to be of value. But how we attach and connect value, one, and then if something is at a nominal fee, like, or pretty much free, or like, very low cost, really participating and appreciating that. But people are so, like you said, I mean, you can go around talking to all these people and connected, but it's still not enough, because it's the people who are so addicted to the stories of these mathematical equations of how they need to get to the simplicity, the chord. And me, I've been studying it for over 2 decades. So me meeting you and like all those people, and I like came right up to you. It's like we're best friends now. Well, this is why, because like I have been on the hunt. And if I've been on the hunt, imagine how many people are suffering and hurting. And I've had my own suffering and hurting, and I still choose. It's a choice to rise to the top, and be right there. But and even though you have the simplicity, like I've been in the routine doing it, and then I got out of my routine, And then ADHD, like, oh, I'm like, oh, wait a minute, I'm going through something. And I'm like, oh, I have the NuCalm, I have Jim, I have my backbone. And what I had to do for me, because I'm traveling a lot, I had to set it for midday to do the rescue, and then set it at nighttime to make sure I do it at night, or if I'm not going to bed, to remember, because if I have the alarm, then I'll remember to start it. And so that's what I've been doing. So we get to tune in with ourselves and pivot and shift and see what works and what doesn't work. And then, listen to this episode, re-listen to this episode, take notes, share it with people. It's so important. Like people know how important it is, but like, lastly on this topic, and then I want to hear everything you have to say. I listen, I'm better at audio. Like, I love listening to audiobooks because I can get through like 8 in 1 month, which is great. But I would just like passive listening by just like laying down and listening, or in a bath listening. My sister taught me, and I used to do it, but she taught me, and reiterated, like remembered to take notes when you're listening to audiobooks, and sometimes pause and I take notes so I retain it differently, right? So when people are listening to this passively, or we're all talking kumbaya about da 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 da, or some people won't even talk about it because they don't want to deal with it. They just want to deal with the glitz and the glam and the fun, and tune out and put on the television to, like, I hate this word, fart around and laugh and just like zone out, because they want to numb themselves because of all the stuff that's happening. However, when we actually practice the action, and actually show up and practice, it becomes a fun game, like holding my own hand, and I might be scared, but then we're going to do it. And it's like a trampoline, and I'm going to fall. And instead of berating myself, it's like, oh, I'm going to jump up, and then I'm going to tell my next door neighbor, my friend, hey, I'm doing this thing. And, do you want to do it with me, and have emotional support? And so I was thinking with you, and I know you're doing it with NFL teams, like on this massive level with teams. What about people like me spearheading, and other people in communities doing NuCalm, like on a Zoom or in person IRL? But and we can do it in solitude and by ourselves. But what if we show up for these micro events? And they say when you pray, like in a congregation at a church, or if you when you meditate in yoga, when you do it together, the collective consciousness of energies and the hertz, they come together, and it's more massive. So maybe that could be the in between, some food for thought of, doing NuCalm independently, but together, sharing, not sharing afterwards. But I think that came up to me when you were speaking and
That would
sharing, and
be
everything you were saying.
that would be very cool. The collective frequency and vibration would be amazing. We've done a lot of events where we'll have like 25 to 28 stations, and we NuCalm 28 people together, and that's kind of cool. But you have headphones on. All right, there's two things that you brought up that I want to share with your audience. Number one, when you find the intention, integrity, and honor of yourself, okay? When you are in tune with who you are, that's the only person you need to appease. It's the only person you need to take care of is you. If you are honorable to your code, if you are honorable to the integrity of who you are, you never really have to worry about everybody else's neuroses and expectation of you. It just doesn't work that way. The challenge is finding that path and finding that fabric of what's important to you. And we're all aware of this. And introspection, meditation, relationships, learning, therapy, there's a lot of ways to collectively go about this. But when you get there, for me, this journey has elucidated the strength of my character based on the upbringing I had by two psychotherapists. And you can see the decisions that I've made in this company come from that integrity and do the right thing when no one's looking. I don't do the right thing when no one's looking for reciprocity. I don't do it for accolades. I do it because it's the right thing. So I have a philosophy that I've used for more than a decade now, and it's really simple. I prepare for nothing and I show up for everything. And doing this has eradicated expectation. Now, no one thinks about these things. Expectation is dangerous. So, for example, say you have a big meeting coming up at your company in the boardroom, and you think, this is how I want this to go. This is the decision I want to come from the meeting. This is how I want my presentation to go. You have expectations. Now, interestingly enough, you have expectations. You probably have not shared them with the other people that are going to be in this boardroom, so they don't know. You get into the presentation, and it starts not going the way you expected it to go. Now, think about how you act. You literally, as you're talking and presenting, start to panic. You start to sweat. You start to change your behavior. You start to change the words you were going to say, and you're trying to manipulate the outcome to an expectation that nobody knows. So, literally, when you are present in your moment and present in your life, and you are a participant in your life and not a spectator looking to the future or thinking about the past, you literally cannot prepare for anything and show up for everything. So when you noticed me on that panel with 4 other neuroscience companies, you noticed someone who was authentic and different. Why? Because I have no expectation. I'm asked a question, I share the answer. I'm not thinking, manipulating, or expecting anything, just sharing my truth and staying true to who I am, my values, and my experience.
Thank you. And the tone, because you said earlier what we say, and to me it came to be a wordsmith, but like your tone and how you say it, because that's the energetic field that comes out. So how it transmute, and we're the ripple effect with our tone and our vibration of the word. And Caroline Myss, MYSS, she's a mystic from Chicago. She talks about each word, it's its own universe, because whatever word, like I say a word to you and you may be triggered in some way, but your wife or someone else could say a word and it doesn't affect them. So it's how you sound when you show up. And like you said, you prepare for nothing, but you show up, but you're staying true to your node and to your code, which I love, yeah.
Always. And I'm telling you, it's the right way to live, because I have not felt stress. I've not felt anxiety. I've not felt anticipatory anxiety. I've not felt worry in more than 10 years. I don't even know what that feels like anymore. I burn no calories in any of it. I still have a life. I run a global neuroscience company. I work with the Department of Justice, the Department of Defense, professional athletes, high people with high expectations. I work with people who are dying of cancer and fearful. I work with a whole variety on a global company that serves over 100 countries. I've got 3 girls, 22, 20, and 17. I've got a wife of 31 years. There's a lot of things in my life that people would say, hey, that's stressful. But it's life. And when you are present, you just deal. I don't sit in the corner, suck my thumb, and get in fetal position. I don't get angry. I just deal. And so that's having the understanding of who I am, what I'm good at, what I can control, which is very little. I can conduct, but I can't control. So I want to share with your audience one more aspect of your brain that you are going to love. Okay. You listening right now are going to love this, because you have no idea what I'm about to share with you. There are 2 aspects of your brain that are really important for every function that we do. There's the autonomic nervous system, and there's the central nervous system. The autonomic nervous system manages the stress response versus the rest response, like a seesaw. The autonomic nervous system manages fight, flight, or freeze, our survival mechanism. The autonomic nervous system manages fear, stress, anxiety, depression, and worry. The autonomic nervous system also manages your involuntary bodily functions, like your digestion and your heart rate and your breath. The autonomic nervous system, Katie, has over 40 million years of neuronal circuitry. 40 million years. The circuitry of that part of our brain began to form. 40 million years. It's incredible. It is governed by the amygdala. The amygdala is an almond-shaped piece in our midbrain. So you could make the argument that we humans are managed by an almond, and that would be a fair statement. Now, the autonomic nervous system has 40 million years of circuitry. Think about how you have responded, your resilience, and the change in what you call normal post-COVID. It's only been 4 years, okay? Look at all the changes that have happened. That's 4 years. Extrapolate 4 years of learning to 40 million years. And if you don't think that your fight, flight, or freeze, anxiety, depression, worry isn't a perfected mousetrap, you're mistaken. It is perfectly architected. Now, the central nervous system is our 5 senses, our intuition, and its number one job is self-preservation and survival. You have Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but they are inconsequential if I'm not alive. So self-preservation is priority number one. Now, when I go somewhere new, you go to New York. The people that have never been to New York before will find themselves overly fatigued that first day of being in New York. Why? Because the central nervous system is protection and survival. What does it need? It needs familiarity and security. It needs an anchor. So the central nervous system is using all 5 senses and my intuition to try to figure out what is happening here. Am I safe? When it feels threatened, it activates the almond, and the almond knows what to do. Now, this part of our brain, our forehead, is our prefrontal and frontal cortex. This is what separates us from primates. Now, this part of our brain is our personality, our character, our patience, our presence, our executive functioning, our logic, and our emotions. Wow, this is a really cool place. Yes, it is. This part of our brain is 4 million years of evolution. So let's get this straight, ladies and gentlemen. The almond, the amygdala, the reptile part of our brain, fight, flight, freeze, fear, stress, anxiety, depression, and worry, have 40 million years of circuitry, competing with 4 million years of circuitry. And the currency of the human brain is not time, it is not money, it is not attention. The currency of the human brain is oxygen-rich red blood. Oxygen is the healing property and element of the human body. So when we become stressed, you'll notice when you think about it, when I become anxious, wow, my brain feeds off of anxious thoughts. I'm not eating something, I'm literally feeding off my anxious thoughts. And the more I do this, the more my heart rate goes, the less my breath goes. It's shallow breath. What's happening is the amygdala, the almond, is activated. And the amygdala is like, hey, we got this. We're going to protect us. It takes all of the oxygen-rich red blood from your forehead. You are not thinking clearly when you are anxious, worried, fearful. It's not because you're weak. It's not because you don't know what to do or out of control. It is because the brain circuitry and the evolution of the human brain has not caught up with today's contemporary society. We still have the structure of a caveman's brain in our reptile brain. The amygdala has too much strength. So every day we battle resources in the form of oxygen-rich red blood to our forehead or to our midbrain, okay? Mindfulness, 3,500 years ago, meditation becomes present in the world in Asia. Yoga, Tai Chi, deep breath work. All of these are ways to oxygenate the forehead. The goal is oxygenate the forehead. So when you said, hey, people are addicted to these old patterns, they're not addicted to the old patterns. It's their central nervous system wiring that demands normalizing dysfunction. Why? Because I need familiarity and security. It can be messed up. It can be in prison. But if my brain says that's familiar, it's an anchor. I can normalize really bad behaviors and really bad things. It is how our brain is wired. It has nothing to do with our intention, our heart, our soul, what we want. It is all has to do with the circuitry of how the brain is wired. This is why, ladies and gentlemen, there's no such thing as a second first impression, which is a bummer sometimes. You go out to dinner. You have you're in New York, so you go out to dinner and it's a new place, and literally the food is like connecting with your tongue and your taste buds, and you're like in heaven. It's like, this is amazing. Everything about that night is amazing. The person you're with, all these endorphins are firing. You're having the best night of your life. This is legendary. That night you dream about it. The next day you're talking about it. And then a week goes by, you're like, well, I'm going to surprise my spouse and I'm going to book another dinner there. You show up, you're so excited. This is the best thing ever. And it will never meet that expectation. Why? Because that first experience, your central nervous system was in peak form, using every resource that it had to pay attention to every minuscule aspect of everything. That's the central nervous system. So the challenge is, I don't want to normalize dysfunction. I don't want to be okay with dysfunction. I don't want to normalize disease. I don't want to normalize bad relationships. I want to overcome the power of that amygdala. And I only can do that through recovery and redistribution of oxygen to my forehead. So I'm personally not a big fan of meditation. I meditated for 20 years as a martial artist, and I'm convinced that I was the worst meditator in the history of humanity. I was terrible at it. I'd have a panic attack every time I closed my eyes. Like, I don't think I'm doing this right because I'm having a panic attack. I'm not going to do yoga. I'm 6 feet, 220 pounds. I'm a wrestler with martial artists. You're not going to see me in yoga pants. It's not my jive. I'm not going to do Wim Hof breathing. I think it's fascinating and I've tried it and I love it. And I'm not going to do Tai Chi. If I can't kick you in the face, I'm not interested in Tai Chi. So I'm not built for mindfulness. NuCalm is my shortcut and my cheat. And for 15 years, I've done this technology and it has changed the chemistry and physiology of my brain. I am not the man I was 15 years ago. I have access to who I am. I am patient. I am present in the moment. I am not judgmental. I'm not critical. I have none of the things that used to drive me as an ambitious Wall Street banker before I took over this company. None of that. That Jim Poole from when I was 40 years old and before doesn't exist anymore. And I thank this technology simply because I would not make the time, take the time, or have the persistence and discipline to learn mindfulness practices, whether I believe they're important to me or not. But the reality is, if you do not take care of your stress will manage you. It'll start by compromising your sleep. And we all know when we don't get a good night's sleep, we don't perform well. In fact, we're easily agitated, we're impatient, we're confused. All of these things in today's human life, we have far too much uncertainty, far too much fear, far too much anxiety, far too much worry. And we're all in a cycle of high stress, poor sleep, high stress, poor sleep. We're starting to see a proliferation of disease happening to younger generations that used to be just for older people. A lot of things are in the wrong direction. So my advice to everybody listening to this is you don't have to use NuCalm. NuCalm's amazing. I love NuCalm and we could talk about it forever. Fine, but you have to do something. Meditation, yoga, breathing, Tai Chi, NuCalm. You have to do something if you want to live the life you deserve to live, if you want to have access to the joy and happiness and gratitude that you deserve to have access to, if you want to become the person you believe you can be. Because if you don't manage stress, that obstacle builds upon itself and you're not going to succeed in any endeavor. You're going to be mediocre at everything you do, from being a family person to a friend, to a lover, to an employee, to an employer. Mediocrity will be your tone for the rest of your life if you don't get ahead of how your brain is wired.
I'm so emotional. Like I just could cry right now. I feel ya. Thank you so much. And um listen, I have some thoughts and we do have a couple questions. I know you have a call with the FBI when we're wrapping up, so I'm just wondering how many minutes do you actually have? How much time so I can be mindful of that.
My call with the FBI is at 4:30, so I've got about 15 minutes maximum.
Okay, great.
And
So
just for the audiences, I work with the Department of Justice. So we work with the FBI, we work with Border Patrol, we work with Special Forces, Navy SEALs. We work with them for expedited recovery without drugs so that the people that protect us can work at their best despite stressful situations. So my call with the FBI is not about me, and it's not a criminal investigation. It's me helping the FBI.
Love that. Love that. Speaking of, so someone, okay, my friends, um, who have, they're in Asia, they have, chimps. But before we go over there, someone's asking, about something, where was it? They said, they wanted to know where to go. Sorry, there's so many things here. Someone was asking who you worked, who do you work for? Who do you work for in the Department of Defense? That's one question, and I'm just gonna actually grab my battery, and I'll come back to
So
the
who do we
chimps in
work
a minute. One
for the
second, I'll be right
Department of
back.
Defense? So we work directly with the special forces, so certain special forces groups. We work with the Navy SEALs, we work with the Air Force Special Operations Command. I presented the Pentagon. So we work across the military, all the branches. The military don't communicate, and there's not a lot of efficiency across the military, but we've been working with the military and Department of Defense for 13 years, serving the people that sacrifice their lives to protect us and ensure that in America that we're the land of the free because of the brave. So we support them. We also support the veteran community for 15 years, thousands and thousands and thousands of veterans coming out of the theater of war. We help them reconcile, acclimate to civilian life, but more importantly, heal from the wounds that they pick up in the theater of war. And these wounds you don't see, they're in their brain. And that's where we have an expertise.
Thank you for answering that question. I have another question here, and I'm going to be here. I can hear you. I just have to grab something right there at my charger, actually. But so my friends, they rescue chimps. Um, and they say we have over 100 orphan chimpanzees and local team of 70 plus reliant on us and have a vision to stop killing of chimpanzees. And I'm supposed to go there and visit them for a while now. So I'm going to show up. I'm going to come. I'm going to be there maybe this year. Thank you for the invitation. They have attached anxiety and panic, and the process is um, debilitating. So, what do you have to say about that? And maybe let's start.
Amazing. Okay, so the work we do is inaudible to the human ear. That's why we use music and we use your ears as a carrier to present your brain with a signal. Think about NuCalm as a thermostat. So back in the old days, you used to like turn a dial to manage your heat and your cooling in your house. That's what we do. But the animals, like a chimpanzee, can hear what we do. So we've had tremendous success with cats, with dogs, with horses. We've never worked specifically with chimpanzees, but if you played NuCalm Rescue ambiently through a speaker, you would see all of their stress down regulate. You would see their anxiety come into management, and you will see an amazing shift simply by playing the neuroacoustic software ambiently. For us humans, we need a headphone because our brain is too sophisticated and we can't hear the frequencies that we're delivering. So with a headphone for us, there's no escape route and the brain is presented with the signals. But ambiently for the chimpanzee community, it'll happen immediately and it'll happen profoundly and it'll happen consistently. Play the music. We've got equestrian therapists doing this. We've got rescue dogs and cats. We personally have 3 cats. I'm a dog fan, but when you have 3 girls, you're outnumbered. And if they want cats, we got 3 cats. And when my wife does NuCalm, 2 of our cats who are skittish literally lie right next to her. They're passed out. So animals can hear the physics and the signaling that we're presenting to the brain. So please get NuCalm, play it ambiently for the chimpanzees. They're going to love it, and you're going to love the outcome.
Okay, I'll follow up on that. And then a friend of mine, Rainbow, she's a teenager and she's on the spectrum of autism. And she says we need this in the autism community. I agree. I'll support with that. I'm actually doing I haven't curated something in over a year. And I just woke up 11 days before Mental Health Awareness Month. And I'm just like, I had a catalog of some solfeggio healing frequencies that have been encoded into my music from the scientist Eric Thompson over at subtle_energies on the Instagram. And I have this catalog of music, and I wanted to put it forth. So I reached out to some people in my community and have their their cover artwork on each song. And so she's one of the artists, and she has autism on the spectrum. And actually, last month was Autism like World Day. And an acquaintance that I know, who I met at the UN one time, they're affiliated with the United Nations, and they do this whole thing on autism. So I'm going to take action because of what she just said, and introduce them to NuCalm, and I'll connect you with them as well, so you can be hooked up with them too. That's a massive connection. So
Yep.
we have to write down all these connections.
We do a lot of work with autism. If you were listening earlier, I shared with you that Dr. Holloway, the inventor of NuCalm, had Asperger's. So autism, the proliferation of autism and the increase that we're seeing in autism, a lot of it's derived from a deficiency in GABA. It's an amino acid that's in our food supply, or it used to be. And that amino acid is the body's primary, what's called an inhibitory neurotransmitter. It puts the brakes on adrenaline. The food companies have been filling our food with preservatives, neurotoxins, excitatory neurotransmitters, and glutamates for addiction for years. So our food supply in America is not balanced with the amino acids we need to regulate. That's why there's been a proliferation of autism in the spectrum here in America. And there was a report and a study that came out of Harvard Medical School about 14 years ago illustrating the deficiency in GABA. So with the autism, not just you as the person suffering with autism, but your parents and everybody around you, NuCalm is a gift from heaven. Number one, the autism brain has a real hard time down-regulating stimulation. It's too stimulating. The world, it's too stimulating for us without autism. And so the ability to simply tune into NuCalm and unplug and allow your brain within 8 minutes to go into theta, the healing zone, you are going to get relief. You're going to get control over some of the matrix that you've had to contest with for your life. And you'll also be able to down-regulate that overstimulation that is a cacophony in your brain at all times. A beautiful technology for autism, the spectrum, Asperger's, etc. And you will love it, and the people around you will notice a difference, and the people around you will notice they're going to love it too. So please,
go ahead.
Please get NuCalm, use it, and enjoy the benefits. I did a keynote lecture in Beijing in 2019 about autism. I'm doing the keynote lecture at the largest mental health conference in the UK next week in Wales, Friday night. So we do a lot of work. I've done about 400 scientific lectures to the medical community all over the world, from the Royal College of Physicians to Parliament to the Pentagon, you name it. I wish we had more amplification. I wish we had more people understanding the science aspect and the need for health through science. It's not drug related and pharmaceutical related, but we'll get there. That's the mission, the purpose, and that's why we do what we do.
Okay, a couple things for everyone tuning in. It's in the description. NuCalm, CALM, one word. It'll be in the show notes so people can click on the links, do all the things, follow, subscribe, all that jazz. Two things I want to share, and then a highlight. I know we're not going to be able to get into AI today, so would love to have you back on in the near future. In between your travels, you just came back for 13 days in Egypt. I mean, excellent. And then you have travels coming up, so we'll connect again. Like, I'll be somewhere in the world, you'll be somewhere in the world, but would love to have you back on this season and talk about coupling and the implementations of AI and the technology. Would love to put a pin in that. But two things. One thing that keeps coming up is a short story of someone personal, near and dear to my heart, because you said not only for the person who has the thing, but for the people around them. So I know someone in my life, and the job they're doing, I mean, they are making amazing money per month. Like, they are doing so well. They're looking frail, losing, like looking bony, like looking like an elderly person, and they're young because of the high stress levels, and they're doing a job of 8 people in one. And it's like, I just told this person, like, take 4 or 5 days. Go, you don't have to go to like Hawaii or, to Greece, but like just take 4 or 5 days, go to an Airbnb in like Santa Barbara or Malibu or something. Like, take time for you. This person does everything for everyone. Everyone does everything for everyone. And their response to me, because in their mind they're hooked and they're like, I got it, I got it. And they just want to like do all these things. And that's great, being obsessed with what you're loving and what you're doing. But to shape shift and actually, because of the like you said, electromagnetic fields, or the how we're wired, and how we're just reacting all the time based on our what we're known, what we're hooked to. They can't break out of that cycle. Just to shape shift and take 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, like get a massage, like go for a foot massage, get a facial, like start, like it's so hard for people to break the cycle, the vicious cycle of what you've been talking about this whole time. So, would you like to say anything about that before I mention the last thing?
Imposing your will and trying to get somebody out of their pattern is almost impossible, and it breaks your heart to witness your friend depreciating. And it stinks. There's nothing good about it. You're going to go blue in the face trying to get them to understand and to take care of themselves. You could do the Trojan horse of saying, here, try NuCalm, not rescue, because rescue, she actually has to stop, put an eye mask on, lie down for 30 minutes. God forbid. But deep sleep at night, hello, there's your Trojan horse. That's just life, Katie, and it's unfortunate. We can't seem to help those who don't want to be helped, even if down deep they do want to be helped. But she's in this pattern, and she's feeding off that pattern. That's her fuel, and you can see her depreciating around it. So I'm sorry that you're witnessing it. I'm sorry that she's going through that, but it's going to be nearly impossible for you to have an intervention with her that's effective. So you have to be coy, you have to be tactful, and you have to be passive. Like the Trojan horse, you got to kind of find tools in there just to throw a bone, just to, a breadcrumb. That's all you can do, because you can't, hey, go on vacation. She ain't going on vacation. As soon as you say that, she's like, you don't know my life, and you're crazy to even think about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Love that. And lastly, on this topic, when she sleeps, she listens to neuroscience. She listens to podcasts in her sleep. She goes to sleep to that. But so she just keeps it going. She just wants to like be a fuel of like learning this information. And
No.
she's beyond genius. I love her so much. I know. Okay, so the last thing, because I know you got to roll out. And I can't believe we waited to the end to talk about this, and maybe we'll get in detail later. But in a nutshell, thankful, so grateful. And it's crazy because two things. One, we're going so fast that we don't realize it's within an arm reach away. I had no idea on the SAG website, on SAG After website, like one of the deals and discounts, what you offered was one free year, because you saw the not the pandemic, the strike that we went through for over 6 months. And from the beginning, you wanted to help out actors, you wanted to help out artists. So you contacted the union, SAG AFTRA, and on their deals and discounts, and there's a lot of voiceover actors and models and musicians, entrepreneurs who tune into the show, and they're on the live, and you can see they can go to, if they're a union member, deals and discounts, and you can get NuCalm for free. And so with your big gracious heart, you offered NuCalm to fellow thespians. Let's just like highlight and talk about that for a minute.
So earlier I said we do the right thing when nobody's looking. And I was watching, I don't watch the news a lot because I don't need the negativity in my brain. But I had the news on for some reason, and I saw the strike, and I saw the vitriol and the disgust and the anger and the fear and the confusion. This is someone's life, right? These are 160,000 card-carrying SAG members whose life revolves around entertainment in some fashion. And their life and their ability to support themselves and their families is being taken from them. So I was taken by that. There's 160,000 card-carrying members. There's 338 million Americans. I don't need the cash flow from 160,000 people when there's 338 million Americans to serve. So I called my publicist in LA and said, hey, connect me with the SAG folks. I want to gift every member, 160,000 of them, a $600 annual Edge subscription for free. $90 million donation. Mr. Poole, that's a $90 million donation. So what? Make the connection. Let's make this happen. So we did this in October, and you simply go into the SAG website, like you said, put in your credentials, and you go into deals and discounts, and you'll see NuCalm, and you simply sign up, and we give you a free year's access to our top subscription, which is called Edge, and it's really simple. We want you to take care of yourselves. It's that simple.
Yeah.
Take care of your stress, repair and restore from COVID, the first punch in the gut, restore and repair from a strike, second punch in the gut. Okay. You'll notice that you're fatigued more than you used to be. You'll notice that your patience is less than it used to be. Your fuse, your anxiety, your worry, because we've gone through a tremendous shift in humanity for the past 4 years. We are all fatigued on a central nervous system level and an autonomic nervous system level. Some of us have more resilience than others, but we're all human. So please take advantage of that opportunity. Download the app, use rescue during the day, deep sleep at night. It's a simple recipe to take care of you, because when you are operating at your best, you will do your best in your craft and profession as a SAG-AFTRA card carrying member, but also just in life. So thank you for elucidating that. We also work with CAA around the athletic side, and we also work with FedEx pilots for pilot fatigue and safety, because as you can imagine, flying airplanes, if you're falling asleep in the cockpit, that's pretty dangerous. So there's a lot of companies we work with to take care of people, and we love doing it. That's why we're here. That's our mission. That's our purpose.
Yeah, one time when I flew to India from Teterboro, the private jet airport, we went on my friend's G5. We took a trip around the world. We went to India, and they had to have 3 pilots in case one got tired. You have to have so
Yep.
many hours. And instead of 2 pilots, there was a 3rd pilot flying with us because of
Yep.
that reason, the fatigue.
Yep.
And then if I wasn't, I don't think I was very clear. I mentioned it, but with ADHD, or just being busy humans, and so much stimulation of this works and this works, like I didn't even realize that was on the SAG website. So for the person tuning in to actually just calm down and calm down. Also, I'll just take a moment and look at our resource, what we're already subscribed to, what communities we're a part of, like what offerings are there. Because I know in the Web3 community, there's these discords, and I have troubles with discords because it's so noisy and there's so many buttons, and my mind goes like this. It makes me dysregulated my central nervous system. So it's like all the, but okay, if I don't have to be a part of 100 servers, but if I pick like 5 top ones that are my go-to ones, I can get more involved with the communities. Like I have so many resources, I don't utilize them to the full potential, and it's kind of a waste. So it's like something with NuCalm, it was right there for me, and I didn't see it until I met you, and you're like, oh, it's there, and I'm like, you know what I mean? So I'm sure you do it too. We all do it as humans, but we already have the resources. We're so rich with the resources. I mean, to be tuning into this and having this conversation, like we're so lucky and blessed, to have the time, the currency of the time, our attention to be here right now. And Jim Poole, thank you so much. You're invited on She's All Over the Place anytime. We need to have you back this season, please, because we got to talk about so many things.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Take care of yourselves so you can be there for the ones who love you and need you the most, and they need you all the time. That's life.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Okay, that's our show today. Thank you so much for tuning in. It was an impactful conversation. Please try NuCalm. Everything's going to be in the show notes before. Again, I appreciate you being here. Share this with, I wouldn't say one person, but share this with like everyone. It's really impactful, and take applied action. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week. Bye.